Anthony Collins stood outside his own dealership, staring up at the gleaming blue and silver sign bearing his last name. 6 locations, hundreds of employees, a business built by his father, and now carried on by him. But lately, it hadn't felt like his. He hadn't stepped into this particular location in over a year, not since the district manager's reports turned from promising to vague. Sales were steady, but the complaints, they'd tripled. Something didn't sit right. The numbers said everything was fine, but Anthony trusted his gut more than graphs, and right now his gut said something was rotten. He checked his reflection in the side mirror of a parked SUV. The disguise was simple but effective. Thick beard, wire frame glasses, a beat-up baseball cap pulled low, a denim jacket over a faded t-shirt completed the look. He didn't look anything like the polished CEO in a tailored suit. Today he wasn't Anthony Collins. Today he was just some guy looking for a truck. He stepped through the sliding glass doors into the showroom. The scent of new leather and brewed coffee filled the air. Salesmen paced, murmuring into phones. Laughter drifted from the finance office. It looked like business as usual, but appearances could lie, and that's exactly what he was here to catch. "Hey there," came a voice, smooth, confident. A tall man in his early 30s with slicked-back hair approached, flashing a practiced smile. His name tag read, Derek. "Looking for a new ride today?" Anthony kept his voice casual. "Just browsing, thinking about a truck, something reliable." "You came to the right place, man," Derek grinned, gesturing toward a glossy black pickup. "This baby right here, brand new engine. Just replaced it last week. Runs like a dream." Anthony's stomach turned. He knew that truck. That engine hadn't been touched. In fact, he'd read the maintenance report himself. It had only had a basic oil change, nothing more. But he kept his face neutral. "New engine, huh?" he said slowly. "That's a big upgrade." "Oh, yeah." Derek nodded, oozing confidence. "The last owner blew it out, so we dropped in a fresh one. That's why it's a little higher on the price, but trust me, it's worth it." Anthony clenched his jaw. That wasn't salesmanship, that was fraud. But before he could respond, another voice cut in. "Derek, that's not right." He turned. A young woman in a dealership polo stood nearby. Her expression was tight. Her name tag said Lisa. Derek's eyes narrowed. "Stay out of this, Lisa." She folded her arms. "We didn't replace the engine. We did a few tune-ups, that's it. You can't lie to customers." Derek gave a cold chuckle. "Why don't you go file some paperwork or something? I got this." Lisa looked at Anthony, then at Derek. Her jaw tightened. But without another word, she walked away. Anthony exhaled slowly, the fire in his chest spreading. One lie. One employee who tried to stop it. One who got silenced. Now he knew. This wasn't just about numbers or quotas. It was about culture. And something was deeply broken here. He needed to see more. But sooner than anyone expected, he was going to burn this whole facade down. Derek didn't miss a beat. "You know," he said, still smiling. "We've actually got a year-long warranty on this truck. Full coverage, parts and labor, no extra fees." Another lie. Anthony blinked, forcing a chuckle. "Sounds too good to be true." "Because it's a great deal," Derek said smoothly. "But only if we act fast. This model's been getting a lot of attention. Had 2 other folks test drive it earlier this week. They might come back, so if you're serious, I can probably knock a few hundred off just for today." Urgency, manufactured scarcity, another manipulation tactic. Anthony knew the playbook. Derek was practically reading from it. Still, Anthony played along. "What if I need time to think?" Derek's smile faltered, then snapped back into place. "Totally understand. But just so you know, if you wait too long, I can't promise this one will still be on the lot." Anthony let the silence stretch. Derek shifted. "Look, I'm just trying to help you get the best deal. We don't want to waste your time." "No. You want to trap me in paperwork while you're still selling a lie?" "Let's talk in my office," Derek offered. "Quieter there, we can go over the numbers." Anthony nodded and followed him. The office was small, walls covered with promotional posters and a framed photo of a red sports car. A stack of contracts sat neatly on the desk. Derek grabbed a tatar pen and tapped it against a clipboard. "Here's what we can do today," he said. "Sign now and I'll shave $500 off. That's real value. But I gotta get a commitment." Anthony sat down, leaned back and studied him. "And what about that warranty again?" "Full coverage," Derek said confidently. 1 year. Bumper to bumper. No surprises. Anthony's voice was low. "That's funny, because I heard your warranties only cover 30 days. Derek blinked. "What?" Anthony leaned forward. 30 days, with conditions, right? Derek hesitated just a second too long. "Nah, that must be old policy." "You sure about that?" "Look," Derek said, laughing nervously. "Policies change all the time." Anthony stood. Derek tensed. "Something wrong?" Anthony reached up and pulled off the cap, then the glasses. Then he ran a hand through his hair and looked Derek square in the eye. Derek froze, his face drained of color. "Wait. What the—" "I own this dealership," Anthony said, his voice cold and calm, steel beneath the surface. "And I just watched you lie to a customer, me, multiple times." Derek stepped back. I didn't know." "No," Anthony cut in. "You didn't care." The moment hung heavy. Derek's hands twitched. The confidence he'd worn like armor was gone. Anthony didn't give him a second to recover. "Get your manager. Now." Derek swallowed hard. "Look, can we just— now?" Derek slipped past him and scurried down the hall. Moments later, the manager walked in. Stocky, mid-40s, blazer over a wrinkled dress shirt. His face said everything. Surprise, confusion, worry. "I wasn't expecting you today, Mr. Collins," he said cautiously. "I wasn't expecting to be here either," Anthony replied. "But I had a feeling something was off, and I was right." He gestured toward Derek. "He lied to my face, repeatedly. Tried to get me to sign a deal based on fake information. That truck's engine wasn't replaced. And the warranty he pitched doesn't exist." The manager glanced at Derek, then back at Anthony. "That's not acceptable." "Is it?" Anthony said, voice cool. "Because it didn't seem to shock either of you." Derek jumped in. "It's just sales talk. People expect a little embellishment. It's how deals get closed." Anthony's jaw tightened. "That's not sales talk. That's fraud." The room went quiet. Anthony turned to the manager. "How often does this happen?" The manager didn't answer right away. That pause told Anthony everything. "I trust my team to handle customers professionally," the manager finally said. "If mistakes were made, I'll address them." "Mistakes?" Anthony repeated. "This wasn't a mistake, it was intentional. And based on your hesitation, I doubt this is the first time." The manager exhaled through his nose. "We do what we have to do to hit targets." Anthony nodded slowly, anger simmering just beneath the surface. He'd come in looking for the truth. Now he'd found it. And this was just the beginning. Anthony's jaw clenched as he stared at the manager. "We do what we have to do to hit targets," he repeated, voice calm but crackling with tension. "Is that what we're calling this now? Because from where I'm standing, it looks like you're enabling dishonesty under my name." The manager shifted in his chair. "I don't micromanage, Mr. Collins. I trust the team to do what's right." Anthony folded his arms. "No, you don't micromanage because it's easier to look the other way. Let them bend the rules, as long as the reports look good." Silence, the kind that stung. Derek sat off to the side, shrinking further into his seat. Anthony exhaled sharply and turned toward the glass wall, his reflection staring back at him. This isn't just about one salesman. This is about culture, about what's been allowed to fester here. He glanced at the manager. "And you've been here how long?" 3 years, the manager replied quietly. "And this dealership's been underperforming on customer satisfaction for how many months?" The manager didn't answer. Anthony turned and walked toward the door. Get Lisa now. The manager hesitated. Why? Because she was the only one who told the truth. Moments later, Lisa entered the office, eyes wide, hands clasped, in front of her. She looked from Derek to the manager to Anthony, trying to read the situation. She wasn't sure if she was being called in to be reprimanded or praised. Lisa, Anthony said, gesturing to the chair across from him. Sit down. She did. I want to ask you something and I want you to be honest. Lisa nodded. How long have you been working here? Almost a year. And how often do tactics like Derek's happen? Lisa hesitated. More than I can count. Anthony's throat tightened. If this wasn't the first time, why now? Why speak up today? Lisa swallowed. Because it was wrong. I couldn't stay quiet anymore. You knew the risks, Anthony said. You could have been written up, maybe worse. She nodded. I've thought about quitting a few times, but I guess I just kept hoping someone would notice. Anthony sat in silence for a long moment. Derek glanced at the floor. The manager avoided eye contact. You're not alone, are you? Anthony asked. Other employees. They know? Lisa nodded. Some talk about it in the break room, but they won't say anything. People are scared. They think if they speak up, they'll lose their jobs. Anthony closed his eyes briefly. That hit harder than he expected. He looked at the manager. You knew this was going on, maybe not every detail, but enough. The manager opened his mouth, then shut it. Lisa spoke again, softer this time. There have been times when customers came back, angry, confused, said they were told something that wasn't true. A few threatened to report us, but the manager always smoothed it over. Offered free oil changes or discounts. Anthony shook his head. So not only were we lying, we were covering it up, paying to keep people quiet. Silence again. I should have come here sooner, Anthony muttered. He turned to Lisa. You spoke up today when it mattered. That means something. Lisa's brow furrowed. What does that mean? It means I need people like you if I'm going to fix this. Her eyes widened. You want me to help? Anthony nodded. Not just help, lead. I need a voice on the floor that I can trust. Someone who knows what's going on in the day-to-day. Someone who's not afraid to say the hard thing, even if it's not popular. Lisa leaned back, processing. I want to help, she said finally. But I don't know if people will change. Some have been doing this for years. Then we find the ones who won't change and we replace them. Lisa didn't look shocked, just thoughtful. Anthony looked at the manager. Do you see now? This isn't just about one bad deal. This is about trust. Culture. And right now we don't have either. He turned back to Lisa. If you could change anything here, where would you start? Lisa took a breath. We tell customers the truth about everything. Warranties, repairs, history. No pressure, no fast talk, just honesty. Anthony smiled for the first time that day. Good start. What else? There are people here who want to do it right, but they don't feel safe. We need to show them that doing the right thing won't get them punished, it'll get them promoted. Anthony nodded. Then we start there. He stood up. Lisa, you keep doing what you did today. Speak up. Challenge what's wrong. If anyone tries to stop you, come straight to me. She stood too. I will. Anthony turned to the manager. And you've got 24 hours to put a plan on my desk. Full review. Past sales, customer complaints, everything. And I want your input on how to clean this mess up. The manager gave a reluctant nod. For now, Anthony added, Derek's suspended. Derek didn't say a word, just stood and left. As Lisa followed Anthony out of the office, her posture had changed. She walked straighter, calmer, like a weight had been lifted. Anthony knew it was only the beginning. There would be resistance, there would be mess. But now, for the first time in a long time, he wasn't cleaning it up alone. Anthony didn't wait until the end of the day. As he stepped onto the main floor of the dealership, his footsteps slowed, not out of hesitation, but intention. He paused in the center of the showroom, surrounded by rows of polished cars, employees, glancing nervously from their desks, phones, and customers. The hum of chatter dropped an octave. Something was shifting. They could feel it. He looked around. Eyes met his and darted away. Some of these people didn't even know who he was. Others had only heard rumors, but by the end of this day no one would forget. Without raising his voice, he began to speak. I know some of you are wondering why I'm here. The room began to still. I wasn't here for a tour, Anthony said, his voice carrying with quiet force. I came here because I had questions about the way this dealership was being run, and what I saw today, it confirmed everything I feared. A few employees exchanged wary glances. Derek stood near the exit, arms crossed, expression tight. Anthony continued. I watched a salesman lie directly to a customer, repeatedly, about an engine, about a warranty, about a deal that never existed. I watched someone speak up and get shut down for it, and I saw a manager pretend not to see any of it. Now there was no mistaking the tension. Silence rippled through the staff like a stone dropped in water. This stops today, Anthony said. No more lies, no more pressure tactics, no more manipulating customers into deals they don't understand. If you can't sell honestly, you won't be selling here at all. His words didn't echo. They settled. Heavy. Final. Some faces looked relieved, some stunned, some terrified. And I'm not just talking about Derek, he said, his eyes grazing the room. I'm talking about a system, a culture, one that clearly lost its way. He turned toward the manager, who stood frozen near the reception desk. I want a full review of every deal closed in the last 6 months, every contract, every complaint, and I want to know who signed off on each one. If we find deception, we fix it, with refunds, repairs, apologies, whatever it takes. The manager gave a stiff nod. He didn't look happy, but he looked like a man who understood the storm had arrived. Anthony turned back to the staff. There will be a new training program. Every employee, every single one, will go through it. We're rebuilding our reputation from the ground up. If anyone refuses, they'll be let go. Murmurs spread. A few heads nodded. Others looked skeptical. That's when Lisa stepped forward. I think this is the right move, she said, her voice clear despite the nerves in her posture. People should be able to trust us. If we do this right, they will. A beat of silence. Then a few nods. One from a senior tech leaning against the service door. Another from a finance assistant near the printers. It was starting. Anthony gave Lisa a short nod. Then he walked toward the manager's office. Behind closed doors, the temperature dropped. You've started the review? Anthony asked. The manager nodded. Yes, it's going to take time, but I've already found a few questionable files. Define questionable. He pulled a folder from the desk. Here, he said, flipping it open. This one was sold, as certified pre-owned. But the inspection was never done, no checklist, no mechanic's signature. Customer paid a premium for something that didn't exist. Anthony's jaw clenched. And this one, the manager continued, the warranty was misrepresented. Salesperson told them it was covered for a year. Paperwork says 30 days. Then this, he pulled another sheet. Altered financing terms. Customer was promised. One rate, signed another. Anthony shut the folder. How many more? If I had to guess, the manager said, dozens. Anthony didn't flinch. We're fixing every one of them. Contact the customers, tell them what happened, offer refunds, repairs, or whatever makes it right. The manager hesitated. That's going to cost us. Anthony's eyes hardened. Not doing it costs us more. The manager nodded slowly. He was beginning to understand. This wasn't a CEO talking. This was a reckoning. Anthony leaned forward. Now, I need to know something. Are you willing to change? Or are you just doing this because I forced your hand? Long pause. I won't lie, the manager said. This place has run this way long before I got here. I learned to stop asking questions. I don't know how to flip a switch and undo that overnight. Anthony nodded. I'm not asking for perfect. I'm asking for effort. You'll get it. Good, because I'll be watching. Closely. Anthony stood, picked up the folder, and left the office. As he stepped onto the floor again, he spotted Derek, now standing outside by his car, talking to another salesman in hushed tones. Anthony walked out after him. Derek turned as he approached, arms folded. Let me guess, you're not here to wish me luck. No, Anthony said, calm. I'm here to ask what you're planning. Derek gave a half shrug. I've got options. Other dealerships don't mind a little hustle. You're making a mistake, you know. Anthony said nothing. Customers don't care about honesty, Derek continued. They care about how the deal feels. If they think they're winning, that's enough, even if it's smoke and mirrors. Anthony stared at him. That's how you justify lying? Derek smiled. It's how this business works. No, Anthony said, voice low. That's how bad business works. Derek stepped back. Look, I could stay, pretend to change, sit through your little training, but you'd be waiting for me to screw up. You're right, Anthony said, because I know you would. Derek's face tightened. Then he opened his car door. I'll be gone by the end of the day. Anthony watched him drive away. He didn't feel satisfaction. He felt clarity, one brick out of the wall. He turned back toward the building. Lisa stood near the desk, having witnessed the interaction. She didn't say anything, just gave Anthony a look, part question, part resolve. He nodded. Now, they rebuild, brick by brick. Lisa didn't speak as Derek's car rolled out of the lot, but her eyes followed it until it disappeared beyond the trees. There was no gloating in her expression, no smug victory, just a solemn kind of silence, the kind that only comes when a storm has passed and you're left standing in the wreckage, knowing it's finally time to rebuild. Anthony stepped back inside, the showroom quieter now than it had been all day. The weight in the air hadn't lifted yet, but it had shifted. He moved slowly, purposefully, eyes scanning the floor. Not the cars this time, but the people. The team. Some heads ducked. Others watched him with cautious curiosity. Anthony wasn't just the CEO anymore. He was the reckoning that walked through their doors. And then he saw her, Lisa. Calm, composed, already speaking to a customer near a silver sedan. Her tone was even, her delivery honest. She wasn't pushing the sale. She was guiding it, explaining, listening. It was the kind of conversation his father used to have, the kind Anthony had forgotten existed. He didn't interrupt. He just stood there watching, a quiet realization blooming behind his eyes. This is what it should have always been. The manager approached him a few minutes later, no longer defensive, just tired. He looked like a man who had finally stopped pretending. I've got a list of the first 15 contracts we're reviewing, he said quietly. Some of it's worse than I thought. Anthony gave a slow nod. Then we deal with it. Daily. Updates, no shortcuts, no spin. Understood. And I'll be here, Anthony added. Every day for the next 2 weeks, I won't be in an office, I'll be on the floor, talking to staff, talking to customers, watching everything. The manager didn't argue. He just nodded again. As Anthony moved through the building, he noticed subtle changes. A junior salesman who normally rushed every pitch paused to walk a customer through the actual service record. A mechanic in the service bay pulled a colleague aside to clarify a repair quote. It wasn't dramatic, but it was different. Some employees still resisted. He could see it in their eyes, the crossed arms, the forced smiles. Change wasn't going to win everyone. But culture doesn't shift in a speech. It shifts in silence, in what people do, when no one's watching. Anthony paused near the center of the floor, right where he'd stood that morning. And for the first time all day, he let himself breathe. Voice-over tone, reflective and cinematic. I thought I came here undercover to catch a liar, but what I found was a culture I let rot. Now I'm here to fix it, one truth at a time. He turned toward Lisa, who caught his eye and gave a small, knowing nod. Not everything was fixed, but something had begun.